by this. How do you feel about having that kind of conversation?
Yeah, we can all certain degree, but I would hate to see this situation become some kind of a textbook example down the road of what you do and don't do.
Mm-hmm.
And, so it keeps on coming back to these poor people where, I don't know, puts them into a corner, and what do they, how are they going to get out of there?
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean? What are the recriminations from this?
Yeah.
And I'd hate to see that some professor somewhere down the road would be teaching an example to their students and say, oh, yes, you remember this case from a few years ago, and it keeps living, you know what I mean? Where it it needs to go away.
Well, I'll tell you one thing good that's come out of this is the conversation that we're having here. And Stephen, thank you very much for your call. That was a portion of Cross Country Checkup segment about the Coldplay couple video, office affairs, and our privacy rights. Dr. Shimi Kang is a psychiatrist and author of The Tech Solution, Creating Healthy Habits for Kids Growing Up in a Digital World. If you'd like to listen to yesterday's full 2-hour edition of Cross Country Checkup, you can stream it on the CBC Listen app or download
the big
our
question
podcast.
here is Canada more secular now than in the past?
Well, we should start by defining what it means for a country to be secular. It doesn't mean a country opposes or suppresses religion if it's secular. To be secular means that it's supposed to be neutral in matters of religion, neither favoring nor opposing any particular religion, and that its laws and policies are not based on religious doctrines. The goal is to treat all citizens equally, regardless of the religious beliefs or lack thereof. And by that yardstick, yes, of course, Canada is secular. But although Canada has long been a secular country, for a long time it also privileged Christianity in governments, laws, and society.
Can you give some examples?
Sure. Consider what happened on July 1, 1967, when Canada turned 100. On that day in Ottawa, 20,000 people gathered on Parliament Hill for a Christian worship service to kick off the official celebration of Canada's centennial. And it was presided over by clergy from the major denominations, United, Anglican,
claim that he and Trump were best friends for 10 years. So for a lot of these people, I think this is first-time information because they've been living in a silo or a vacuum about Trump. And so when you have people like Charlie Cook and Benny Johnson and even Tucker Carlson and Matt Walsh all online saying, hey, what's going on here? Trump needs to be transparent. There are some definite defections here that are creating problems for Trump that he can't simply distract.
Could the fallout over this pose a challenge for Republicans who are looking ahead to next year's midterm elections?
I mean, I'm a little hesitant because it's 15 months away before the midterms, but none other than Steve Bannon, who was briefly Trump's campaign manager in 2016, on his War Room radio show said that if this lingers on, it could cost the Republicans north of 40 seats in the House elections in 2026. And given their thin majority right now, a flip of 40 seats would give the Democrats not just a majority, but a pretty comfortable majority. And so if, look, those QAnon people I talked about and those media right-wing influencers who are historically Trump loyalists, they're not going to vote for the Democrats in the midterms or any other election. But if that base stays home, if they're like, wow, I feel like we've been deceived. I feel like Trump promised A and delivered not A. If those QAnon types just stay home, that would be enough to sink the chances of many Republicans in competitive and swing districts in the House elections next November.
And we've seen recent polling suggesting that most Americans, both Republicans and Democrats, are unsatisfied with the Trump administration's handling of the Epstein case. Do you think this issue is likely to dog Donald Trump?
It could, and I think, I saw that Reuters Ipsos poll, which I thought the most startling thing wasn't that a majority of the country thinks he's handling it poorly. It's that Republicans were divided in almost equal thirds. One third saying he's approving of the way he handles it, but one third disapproving, and another third saying, I don't know, or I'm unsure. That's not typical numbers for support among Republicans for a Republican president, no less Donald Trump. So that's signs of cracking and sort of that this issue is different from other issues like immigration or crime or taxes, where the party is pretty much in lockstep, 90% approving. So look, it's early. I think the other problem for Trump is when he does stuff like attack the Wall Street Journal or try to get the country to talking about whether the Washington Commanders should change their name back to the Redskins. I mean, he's like the Streisand effect. He's like actually directing more attention to it. He can't seem to make this issue go away yet.
Tom, before I let you go here, we have about 30 seconds. I do want to hear your opinions on the Wall Street Journal, Trump filing a defamation lawsuit over the newspaper's report that his name was on a 2003 birthday greeting for Jeffrey Epstein that included a sexually suggestive drawing. What are you watching there?
Well, I think when he sues, that just makes more people wonder what's in the drawing, and it's a drawing of a female shape with Donald Trump's signature and above her reproductive parts. And the note suggests, may every day be a wonderful mystery, or whatever he says, a wonderful secret, suggests that he and Epstein had a shared secret. And what would be that secret? So again, this is a Streisand effect where Trump is actually drawing more attention to an issue that he would like the people to forget about and move on from.
Tom, thank you for joining us this morning.
Great to be here. Cheers.
Tom Schaller is a professor of political science at the University of Maryland. It's time now to go to Lauren Donnelly with your news headlines.
Good morning. Intense wildfire smoke has summer event organizers rethinking their plans and policies. We'll have more on that. And rain in the forecast could help crews fighting wildfires that have been threatening Thompson. In an update posted to social media yesterday, the city said rain was forecast for the area today as the community continues to advise residents to be ready to flee at a short notice due to several fires. That's all coming up after World Report.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Currently 18 degrees here in Winnipeg at the Forks. We do have a chance of showers or thunderstorms later this afternoon, and of course widespread smoke this morning. And we are under an air quality warning, much of the province under that air quality warning. So don't spend too much time outside if it's something that your body is very sensitive to. Still to come on the show are religious people in the minority in Canada. We'll hear from our faith contributor. He's been looking into that question. He'll be here just after the 7 o'clock news as well. We know that skin cancer affects people of all colors. Despite this, skin cancer often goes unnoticed in people of color. So how do we change this and save more lives? That conversation is coming up just after your 7 o'clock news. As well, there's been a lot of fanfare about Centerport, an economic hub in Winnipeg with rail, road, and air connections to markets worldwide. But there's been very little publicity about another regional port, potentially in the works just south of Winnipeg, in the RM of Richot. CBC's Bartley Kivas will join us in studio to talk more about that. That is coming up on Information Radio. Stay with us.
On The Current.
I'm Pia Chattopadhyay. Donald Trump has threatened Canada any number of ways.
Canada's been very bad to us on trade, but now Canada's going to have to start paying up.
Now journalist Stephen Marsh is asking the question, does Canada really have what it takes to go it alone without the U.S.? That's coming up on The Current.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
Elbows up. Elbows up.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Marcia Young. Data obtained by CBC News is raising questions about the death rate of federal inmates. The Correctional Service acknowledges it never intended to make the figures public, and it released unredacted data to CBC by accident. Thomas Degla has the exclusive story.
He got into a lot of trouble with the law.
Ashley Fontaine's brother spent most of his life in custody. After a string of violent crimes and mental health struggles, 31-year-old Kendall Lee Campo told his sister he wanted to change his ways.
A lot of those places that he did go to were supposed to stabilize his behaviors.
Campo overdosed on methadone less than 2 years before his expected release. He was among at least 136 federal inmates since 2019 whose deaths were deemed non-natural. What's more, data obtained by CBC News shows Correctional Service Canada has failed to curb such deaths, with the rate remaining stable year after year. Criminal defense lawyer Alison Craig says the findings highlight an urgent need for better support in those crucial final months.
There need to be concrete programs for each and every offender that helps them plan before they get out.
And they're lacking that support.
Richard Miller served time in federal custody himself and says it can prove a dangerous cycle.
So that guys are in prison and they're doing time. They do not have the resources that's needed for them to reintegrate.
The Federal Correctional Service declined our interview request, but said every death in custody is investigated and that staff are committed to learning from each incident. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Toronto.
Police in New York State say they have found the body of a missing 9-year-old girl from Canada. Malini Fratellin's father reported her missing on Saturday. He said it was possible she was abducted from the vacation town of Lake George in the Adirondacks. Police found the girl's body about 50 kilometers away from there, close to the New York-Vermont border. They say there's nothing to suggest she was abducted, and officers have identified inconsistencies in her father's timeline of events. He is currently in police custody. High-level talks in support of Ukraine are being held today. The Ukraine Defence Contact Group, which includes Canada, will meet virtually. The UK's defence minister is expected to call for a 50-day drive to arm Ukraine and pressure Russia to agree to a ceasefire. As Anna Cunningham reports, Moscow launched a new round of attacks on Ukraine overnight.
The buzz of incoming drones over Kyiv. More overnight strikes by Russia targeting Ukraine's capital. Ukraine's Air Force says some 450 drones and missiles were launched. Residents spending another restless night in underground shelters. Above-ground fires were started across the city. Pavlo Petrov, spokesperson for Kyiv's State Emergency Service, says we see they are directing a very large number of drone strikes and cruise and ballistic missiles. Katerina took shelter in a metro station that was also hit. There was lots of smoke and dust, she says. We've all gotten used to it, she adds. Kyiv's allies, including Canada, will hold a virtual meeting of the Ukraine Defence Contact Group later, chaired by the British and German defence ministers. It's expected they will call for a 50-day drive to arm Ukraine, designed to force the Russian President Vladimir Putin back to the negotiating table. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says he has sent Moscow a proposal to hold peace talks this week. If it happens, it's expected the meeting could take place in Istanbul. It's unclear if Russia has accepted. Anna Cunningham, CBC News, London.
Firefighters in Bangladesh spray water on the wreckage of a training aircraft. It crashed onto a school campus early today in the capital, Dhaka. At least 16 people were killed, including the pilot. Young students are among the more than 50 injured. The aircraft is used by the Bangladesh Air Force for training. It is not yet clear what caused the crash. People in Slave Lake, Alberta are being told to get ready to evacuate. A wildfire is burning northeast of the town. People are being told to fill up their vehicles, gather important documents and medication. They don't have to leave home yet. People in Slave Lake have faced devastating wildfire before. A third of the town burned down back in 2011. 4 U.S. senators are heading to Ottawa today to meet with Prime Minister Mark Carney. The delegation is made up of Republicans and Democrats. They say the trade war is harming their economies, and they want to end it. Janice McGregor joins us now this week from our Washington bureau. And Janice, this is the second delegation of U.S. lawmakers to head to Ottawa amid trade threats. Who is visiting this time?
Marcia, well, the delegation that came in May included members of the U.S. Senate's Foreign Relations Committee. 3 Democrats in today's delegation sit on the powerful Finance Committee, including the top-ranking senator from Oregon, Ron Wyden. The 4th senator on this trip, Republican Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, not only represents a border state, but she's a swing voter, a critic of how the White House has been undermining congressional authority over things like trade. In his second administration, Trump has made extensive use of emergency orders to just bypass the Senate's checks on his executive power. So these senators' ability to fix much may be limited.
Today was supposed to be the deadline for Mark Carney and Donald Trump to reach a new economic and security partnership. Where do those talks stand?
Well, Canadian officials had set a July 21st deadline to focus Trump's mind, push for a response to their proposals, keep Canada's talks on a separate track. Instead, Canada's now lumped in with all the other countries who also got letters this month with this later August 1st deadline. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick was out on CBS yesterday touting how his boss is fixing America's trade deficit by forcing countries to open their markets.
If you're going to keep your tariffs and your tariff barriers holding us down, then of course it seems fair that you should pay a tariff to do business with the greatest customer on earth, the American consumer.
Canadians say their conversations continue, but there's little proof that the White House is responsive to what Canada's putting on the table.
Thanks, Janice.
You're welcome.
Janice McGregor reporting from Washington. While U.S. senators are in Ottawa, Canada's premiers will be gathering in Huntsville, Ontario. They're holding a 3-day meeting focused on U.S. trade and tariffs. Here's New Brunswick Premier Susan Holt.
Volatility, the uncertainty, the level of some of the tariffs, we'd like as much of that gone as possible.
Prime Minister Mark Carney will be joining the premiers tomorrow. He has hinted Canada may not be able to reach a zero-tariff trade deal with Washington. A man who has lived in Canada since he was a baby is accused of running one of Italy's most powerful mafias. But it's not clear if the Canadian government can deport him. Most of the evidence against him is based on foreign eavesdropping. As Evan Dyer reports, the Federal Court of Appeals will today weigh in on the case.
We're about to show you a police surveillance operation against purported mobsters.
A CBC report on the surveillance of 2 Italians who landed at Toronto's Pearson Airport in 2018. Today, that surveillance is at the center of a deportation appeal by purported mob boss Vincenzo Jimmy De Maria. The governments of both Canada and Italy say De Maria is a senior figure in Italy's biggest mafia, the 'Ndrangheta. Italian police were recording the 2 visitors who met with De Maria through spyware on one of their phones with the help of Canadian police. But a Crown attorney had already told Canadian police not to join the surveillance operation because there were no grounds to justify a wiretap in Canada. De Maria's lawyer, Jessica Zita, says he put that in writing in a letter she received through disclosure.
It very clearly states if they were to make these recordings on Canadian soil, it would be a breach of our Constitution.
Police made the recordings anyway, and patchy transcripts are now evidence in the government's application to have the 71-year-old De Maria deported back to the country he left as an infant. Zita says the recordings don't make the case against her client, but also warns of the precedent if Canadian officials are able to do an end run around the Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
They can find ways through other countries with lower standards for evidentiary rules, bring that evidence back and rely on it without any sort of testing whatsoever. That's as good as having no evidence at all.
The governments of Canada and Italy both declined to comment directly on the case. The hearing begins today with testimony from Italian police and is expected to continue all week. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in this morning for Marcy Marcusa. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on YouTube or anywhere on your CBC Listen app. Coming up on the show, many Manitobans have heard of Centerport. It's a major economic hub near Winnipeg's airport with rail, road, and air connections to markets worldwide. But did you know there's another port in the works just south of Winnipeg? CBC's Bartley Kivas will join us to tell us more and why very little has been said. As well, does it feel like there are fewer and fewer people who believe in God in our country? Our faith contributor has been looking into that question. He says there's more than meets the eye when it comes to religion in Canada. But first, many people of color believe they're immune to melanoma and other skin cancers because of the melanin in their skin, but that's a myth. We'll explore it coming up first. CBC's Lauren Donnelly joins us now for a look at news headlines.
Good morning. Is wildfire smoke ruining your summer plans? Environment and Climate Change Canada has air quality warnings out for nearly all of Manitoba. Only the extreme south, like Pilot Mound, Melita, Verdon, and Churchill, were spared over the weekend. We'll have more on what the forecast is looking like for the future. And the graduating class of Flint Flon's high school got their diplomas on Saturday. The 54 grade 12 students were scattered across the prairies due to wildfires just a few weeks ago. On grad night over the weekend, they were thrilled to be back home celebrating together. We'll hear more about that ceremony. That's all in your next local news at 7:30.
Thank you very much, Lauren.
No problem.
That is CBC's Lauren Donnelly. Abby Ediemi, you heard Lauren say it, that smoke has been a huge talker this weekend.
It is smoky and unsettling. You know, the weekend was more like all of the province, and it still spills into this morning. We're going to see relief on Tuesday, but for today, smoke still present in the air. We're talking about from the Red River Valley region all the way towards Churchill. We see smoke hanging in the air, and the air quality remains in the air quality warning still remains in effect for most of these regions. So if you're having breathing issues or you walk outside, it's best to really limit yourself your time outside if it impacts you. As mentioned, the smoke is going to be lingering through the day, and it will return even tomorrow. Right now, Winnipeg 17 degrees, light rain and smoky skies we have in the city. The rest of the day will be bringing more like a mix of sun and clouds. We still have a good chance of showers and thunderstorms hanging around all through the day. It will feel muggy, and highs will be around 25 with winds coming from the southeast. That air quality health index is around 7 in the city at this time. Across the southern part of the province, Brandon, Dauphin, all the way down to Gimli, we're seeing temperatures between 15 and 19 at this time. Smoke also present in many areas, and we see highs near 27 in these regions. While up north, the powerful Flint Flon, Thompson, Churchill, smoke still in the air this morning. We're looking at 12 to 15 degrees in the regions up north, though the skies will stay mostly cloudy later in the day, and we'll see scattered showers here and there up north. Highs would get to 24 for the northern part of the province. So across the province, the West, I would say, stays more like warm and humid with showers, while up north, it's going to be more like those hazy and smoky conditions we will be seeing. Winnipeg right now, 17 degrees with smoke and light rain outside.
Thank you very much, Abby.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Abby Adiemi. Sierra Sanders joins me now, show director. Sierra, seems like a bit of a drizzly commute out there.
It is a drizzly commute out there right now, Chloe, especially here in downtown Winnipeg. I don't know about other parts in the city, but down here in the downtown, it is a little slick on the roads.
It's a little wet.
It is a little wet. I'm sure you know how this feels. Being the afternoon show director, it gets lonely on the commuter line.
It
sometimes.
does, yeah. But also, it's weird because it's like I'm so happy that there's no problems.
Exactly.
But also, I love talking on the phone.
No news is good news. It sounds like. But if there is news out there on your commute, I would love to know about it. And I've been saying this, even if it's good or bad, maybe you see something good that happens out on the road. I want to hear about it so I can share the goodness with the listeners. So whether it's good or bad, I would love to hear it. You can give me a call on the CBC Commuter line, whether something is slowing you down here in the city or out on the highway. That number is 204-788-3093.
Coming up to 7:15 here on Information Radio. And although having more melanin makes you less vulnerable to sun damage, people of all skin tones can get skin cancer. But it often goes undetected in darker skin. According to Melanoma Canada, melanoma rates have tripled in the past 30 years. And in racialized communities, late detection or even lack of detection makes the cancer all the more deadly. Jasmine McGowan is the managing director of the Save Your Skin Foundation, a patient-led nonprofit dedicated to fighting against melanoma. Welcome to Information Radio, Jasmine.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today.
So, what are some of the reasons that melanoma is caught later in people with darker skin?
Yeah, so when we look at the Fitzpatrick scale, it goes from 1 to 6, right? 1 being the lightest, very pale, often white freckled, and then 6 being that very dark brown to black skin tone. So there's something that happens around 3 to 4 where their skin cancer risk changes, but the UV sensitivity also changes, right? So the tendency to burn. So usually those that have more melanin in their skin, you don't always see the burn as upfront as someone who's from 1 to 3 on that scale. And because of that, oftentimes it is diagnosed at a later stage. Also, those that have darker skin complexions get melanoma or a type of skin cancer in places where the sun doesn't shine, right? So we're thinking like the palms of the hands, the palms of the feet, between the fingers, under the fingernails. So often because of that, it's not checked, it's not followed up with, and sometimes some people of color don't really notice the difference of a different blotch on their skin because it tends to blend in. So because of that reason, they get diagnosed much later in life.
How dangerous is that late diagnosis?
It could be often deadly. So when we're thinking of a stage 3 to stage 4 cancer, depending on the care that you can receive, sometimes wait times, we know there's a lot of wait times now in the healthcare space, it could be detrimental when we're looking at the percentages of survival rate for those that are between 1 and 3 in that Fitzpatrick scale and those that go from 4 to 5. It's almost a 30% difference of survival rate for melanoma.
Let's talk about education. How would you describe the education that is available when it comes to skin cancer for people of color?
It's we're working on it, but it is not as good as it should be at all. Even just for melanoma in general and some safety awareness. But for those of color, there are some big issues and big gaps that need to be filled. One of them is having enough imagery about skin cancer and melanomas on different skin tones, being readily available for those that are studying to be dermatologists or those that are going to be working in the skincare space. Luckily, there has been a lot of changes. For example, the Journal of the American Academy of Dermatology has a huge array of pictures of different types of melanoma, skin cancers, so think your basal cell, your squamous cell, to educate those future doctors and future dermatologists and so on about what to look for. And those are also available for the public. So if there's ever something you see on your skin that maybe you don't have access to a doctor or healthcare practitioner to check out, or even a loved one, I do recommend looking there and trying to compare to see if maybe it's something that you should bring forward to a doctor or, move forward if there's anything that causes concern.
We've been having a few different conversations about sunscreen and skin protection over the last few weeks here on Information Radio. And a big part of that conversation is sunscreen. What would you say are the biggest misconceptions that we see about sunscreen in racialized communities in particular?
Yeah, so there are a lot of myths. A lot of times I think because, of course, you have melanin, the sun barrier doesn't hit the same. But just because you're at low risk of burn doesn't mean that UV ray is not hitting your skin the same that it is everyone else. Sunscreen especially, there are a lot of myths out there, a lot of influencers making comments about it as well, but sun damage still happens and the UV will still penetrate your skin no matter what skin color you have. So while for people of color, having melanin in their skin is a plus, it's not enough to prevent UV damage, and that includes using sunscreen as a tool. Sunscreen is not the be-all end-all. You still need to seek shade, prevent your time outside during high UV times, and always check the UV rate for that day. And again, try to seek shade as much as you can. Wear clothing that's protective or a parasol if you're available. And yeah, use sunscreen if you're have the privilege to purchase sunscreen. But again, it is one tool out of many for sun prevention.
When we're talking about purchasing sunscreen, are there enough options for people of color? I know typically sunscreen is very white, very pasty. That's probably not an enjoyable experience. It probably doesn't blend into the skin.
Absolutely. I myself, I'm a woman of color, and I have that hard time finding sunscreen. It depends on the sunscreen you purchase. There is a lot of trial and error. The main two sunscreens you find nowadays are chemical and mineral. I will say at times the mineral ones are a little better for those of skin of color. Both are absolutely safe for your skin. It's just a preference on what you prefer. Both have the same protection when it comes to the UV rays, but usually chemical is a little easier to use because it does blend in. It doesn't leave that over a white cast that you see usually with mineral sunscreens. But there are so many options nowadays to play around with. There's some ones that have aqua gel and so on. But as long as you purchase something that's SPF 30, you are getting as much sun protection as you can, even when it comes to a 50, 30, 40. 30 is the best bet. And it's just trial and error on finding the right sunscreen for you.
People get a lot of advice about various things, but a lot of skincare advice, people will turn to social media, right? How harmful can this space be in the long run?
Oh, we have a love and hate relationship with social
I
media,
believe
right?
it.
It's an incredible tool to get the messaging out there, and us at Save Your Skin, we do use that as well. But it is very harmful. There are a lot of people that have a platform, that have a voice, that do share a lot of misconceptions or, flat out lies at the end of the day without any backing. So just like everything on the internet, I grew up in a time where my mom said not to believe everything on the internet. Take everything with a grain of salt and look at their sources. If you can't find sources, I wouldn't take it as a credible bit of information that they're sharing. There are a lot of healthcare practitioners nowadays that are using social media, so think a dermatologist sharing advice and so on. From there, I would take those sources a little bit more seriously, but always do research, always look for real information. The Canadian Dermatology Association is great for that. Save Your Skin is another great one. We have all our sources on our website as well where we get that information. So just like anything on the internet, just be diligent. Make sure you are checking those sources and taking everything with a grain of salt until you can back it up by some science or someone that is in the healthcare space and knows exactly what they're talking about.
Lastly here, Jasmine, how do we make sure or how do we change the fact that there aren't a lot of resources when it comes to skincare, skin cancer, sun protection for people of color? How do you make that change?
One voice at a time really does help. Things like this helps a lot. So talking about it, having those conversations, bringing it up with your dermatologist. We are doing everything that we can on our end, making sure that those new textbooks that are coming out do have those images. People know about those image banks to be able to diagnose a person of color and where to look. For a person of color, like I said, again, they get melanomas and different types of skin cancers on areas that usually we don't see public, right, to where the sun would be exposed to. So having the conversations, talking to those healthcare practitioners, talking to those that are teaching the next generation of healthcare practitioners about skin cancers, melanomas, and specifically for those skin of color. And then for those independently that are just existing and trying to be sun safe, try to get as much information often as you can. Look at those resources that are legitimate, again, like the Canadian Dermatology Association, Save Your Skin Foundation, Skin Cancer Canada, and educate yourself as much as possible and talk about it. And next time you're at the beach, just poke your friends and let them know to seek some shade and apply some sunscreen.
Well, Jasmine, thank you for the education that you do, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much.
Jasmine McGowan is the managing director of the Save Your Skin Foundation. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Show director Sierra Sanders has popped into the studio for an update on your commute.
Yes, good morning. I had Tim just give me a call on the commuter line, letting me know that at eastbound Logan at Main Street, there was a collision in the left lane. So you want to keep right to pass. It sounded like when I was on the phone with him, it had just happened. So there might be some backups here in the next little bit. So that's eastbound Logan at Main Street. There's a collision in the left lane, so you want to make sure you're keeping right to pass there. If you see anything else out there on your drive, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line, just like Tim with a T did. That number is 204-788-3093.
I love when people have fun names.
Me too.
It's my favorite part.
It makes it easy to remember.
Tim with a T, thank you for calling. Yeah, and as Sierra said, keep us updated on that commute. Currently in the city of Winnipeg, we're looking at a mix of sun and cloud today. 60% chance of showers or thunderstorms. Forecasted high of 25 with the humidex. It'll feel like 30. Looking at the overhead cam on a roof, you can still see it's fairly rainy, wet, slick out there this morning. So we could see that rainy conditions continuing, perhaps some thunderstorms. It's now time to head to sports news with Scott Regehr. Good morning, Scott.
Hey there, Chloe.
So we're going to start with golf, where at the Open, it was an open and shut case.
True that. There was really no competition for Scottie Scheffler. The American won the event by 4 shots in the end and then faced maybe a more difficult opponent for him, the media. Before the tournament, recall, Scheffler spoke at length about how golf wasn't the most important thing in his life and that winning major tournaments only satisfied him for, maybe a few minutes. He was asked after winning the Open if that's how he felt.
You can shorten a 5-minute clip into 3 words, I think really underestimates what I was trying to communicate. Maybe I didn't do as effective a job of what I would have hoped to in communicating that. It's just tough to describe when you haven't lived it. Just because you win a golf tournament or accomplish something, it doesn't make you happy. It doesn't, maybe for a few moments, maybe for a few days, but at the end of the day, there's more to life than playing golf. But, I'm pretty excited to go home and celebrate this one.
Scheffler says his faith and family are always or have been and always will be his main priorities. If so, Chloe, golf's been a pretty impressive side gig for him. Over the past 2 years, he's won 11 events, a run of dominance we really haven't seen since Tiger Woods was around, although Woods did do that for a decade and a half, so the comparisons only run so deep. Woods, though, loved the spotlight. Scheffler, by comparison, says he just wants to get away from it. He wants to go home to Texas, hang with his family, and eat at the Chipotle restaurant where nobody recognizes him yet. So good luck with that lasting. In the meantime, plenty of spice in Corey Connor's game this year. The Listowel, Ontario native Chloe finished 10th at the Open. Recall he finished 8th at the Masters, so that means he's the first Canadian man in a couple of decades with 2 top 10 finishes at majors in the same season.
I feel like that perspective might keep the pressure down a little bit, right? At least you can go home to Chipotle, no matter how you score.
Only one. He says there's one by the campus of Southern Methodist University. He says they all know him there. And it's uncomfortable, but he's got a secret Chipotle.
A secret
that
Chipotle.
He goes to. Nobody, and he's not telling anyone where it is.
This is why you tune into Sports News with Scott Regehr.
That's right.
We're going to head to swimming now. Growing concerns, actually, about Penny Alexiak's future in the pool.
Yeah, so this stems, Chloe, from her suspension by the International Testing Agency. The ITA says the Toronto native committed 3 whereabouts failures within a 12-month period. Oleksiak maintains she's a clean athlete, she's never used any banned substances, and that this case is about whether she updated her information correctly. Swimming Canada has thrown its support behind her, saying she made an administrative mistake. Well, maybe so. But Oleksiak, one of Canada's greatest ever Olympians, now faces a possible 2-year suspension. Asked whether that could prevent her from competing at the next Summer Games in L.A., CBC's Brittany McLean says it's possible.
It is really hard as an athlete to train on your own. So that to me is a huge factor of where she goes from here, because
she's at the age in her career where another Olympic Games is by no means a given, right? Like it would be great. And I know she's really motivated toward LA, and it's 3 years away. So you think a 2-year suspension is a massive penalty. Does it negate her opportunity to compete there? Absolutely not.
Oleksiak's going to be 28 when the LA Olympics are contested. 22 is generally accepted as the peak age for elite female swimmers. While Oleksiak awaits word on a possible suspension, Chloe, she has withdrawn from the World Aquatic Championships going on right now in Singapore.
Oh, must be tough to contend with that.
Mhm.
We're going to finish with baseball. I've been keeping my eye on our TV, our CBC News. I've been watching some clips of the Blue Jays. They just picked up from where they left off before the All-Star break.
Yeah, after winning more games than they ever have before it, Toronto resumed play, Chloe, by sweeping San Francisco over the weekend. Befuddlingly, the Jays' $500 million man, Vladdy Guerrero Jr., he has not been a big contributor to their success. So seeing him hit his first home run in close to a month yesterday was welcome, says manager John Schneider.
Vlad hitting the homer to kind of get us back in it. You can kind of feel the stadium come alive a little bit, and guys feed off that. We've had great crowds the entire year, and it feels like the last homestand, starting this one, it's been the same. And thankfully, we've been given something to cheer about. It is a real thing when you're playing at home and your home fans are behind you and making some noise. I think that definitely rubs off on the guys.
So the Jays with the best home record in the major leagues right now and can set a franchise record with their 11th straight home win. If they beat the Yankees tonight, how sweet would that be? Closer to home, meantime, the Goldeyes have avoided a series sweep. They beat the Lincoln Salt Dogs 9-3. Winnipeg still in last place in the West Division. The Goldeyes are back in action Thursday at home to the Chicago Dogs. Hold the Salt in that case.
It's a great ballpark. So fun. So fun to go see the Goldeyes. Thank you, Scott, for joining us this morning.
You betcha.
That is Scott Regehr with your CBC Sports News. The CBC News is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning, I'm Lauren Donnelly in Winnipeg at 7:30. It's 17 degrees with light rain at the airport. An air quality warning is in effect, a mix of sun and cloud with 60% chance of showers or thunderstorms today and a high of 25. Manitoba's NDP government says it has questions about another decision made by the former PC government. The finance minister says several departments are reviewing an $18 million grant made by the former government just 1 week before the 2023 provincial election campaign began. The PC government gave the funds to a company called John Q. Public to develop a rail port south of Winnipeg in Richat. There was no disclosure about that grant. Adrian Sala calls this mysterious and says he's concerned about infrastructure the province might have to build to make the port happen.
In order to proceed with this rail park, there's potential need for a new ring dike. There's a new need for an overpass. These are things that can be in the range of hundreds of millions of dollars.
The opposition PCs say the NDP is going on a fishing expedition. The CEO of John Q. Public did not respond to a request to comment on Sala's statements. Summer smoke seems to be here to stay. That's according to a lead forecaster with Environment and Climate Change Canada. Brad Vrolik says this thick smoke will continue until the Whiteshell and Central Prairie region gets significant rain or snow. He says it's an unfortunate summer for Winnipeggers and anyone impacted by wildfires.
But if people are kind of trying to plan their weeks and plan ahead, I think right now it's just kind of whenever there's a northeast to northwest wind, so pretty much anytime the wind's out of the north, it's likely that Winnipeg is going to end up seeing some level of smoke.
Froelich says in the past decade, there's been a clear trend of forest fires becoming a staple of Western Canada's summer climate. And when the air quality index is maxed at 10, like it has been this past weekend, to wear an N95 mask outside. That poor air quality canceled some events in Winnipeg over the weekend. Bike Winnipeg put the brakes on its Fancy Women Ride event yesterday. Organizer Patty Wientz says dozens of people planned on putting on some of their best outfits and celebrating women's empowerment.
Leaving the car behind is a solution to our climate change crisis, and yet we're not able to do those things right now because of the climate change crisis.
Wientz says the event was called off because Bike Winnipeg events can't go on if the air quality index is a 7 or higher. Other events like the Manitoba Fringe Festival and the Stampede in Morris went ahead. Dance and theater group Hercynian Arts Collective wore masks for their performance in Old Market Square yesterday afternoon, and so did Jamie Fougere and his family, who were there to watch. He said it's tough with 2 young kids on summer break.
We need to do something to get them out of the house and have activities, but it's a health risk to be outside. Unfortunately, I haven't seen many other people wearing masks.
Organizers say they're following in the footsteps of bigger events like the Folk Fest and making sure masks are accessible to volunteers and the public. Rain in the forecast could help crews fighting wildfires that have been threatening a northern Manitoba city. In an update posted to social media, the city of Thompson said rain was forecast for the area today as the community continues to advise residents to be ready to flee at short notice due to several fires. But intense smoke hampered firefighters' efforts on Saturday. Aerial crews were unable to do suppression work with helicopters and water bombers. Smoke also prevented sonar imaging of land burned by a fire that has kept people out of Tatasquiac Cree Nation, says that community's chief. Finally, a northern Manitoba city that was evacuated for about a month due to wildfires held its high school graduation on Saturday. 54 students got their diplomas in front of a home crowd in Flint Flon. Organizer and teacher Rachel Wright says many of them missed their grade 8 grad due to the pandemic. So she was determined to give graduates this day in their final year, even if it was almost a month later than usual.
This group has gone through a lot and persevered through it, and giving them something that they deserve and should have is really big.
Habnock Collegiate in Flin Flon has decades-old traditions for grads, including a car parade and a march in their formal wear down Main Street. That is your CBC News from Winnipeg.
Thank you very much, Lauren.
You're welcome.
And we're actually going to hear from more of those grads coming up here on Information Radio. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in for Marcy Marcusa. Abby Adiemi joins me now with a quick look at your weather forecast.
Yeah, good morning once again. Air quality warnings in effect for much of southern, central parts of the province and all the way extending into the north. We're talking about the powerful influence Thompson, Churchill towards Gillam. Smoke making the air really hard to breathe and causing issues with visibility. So I'd advise you to spend more time inside if it impacts you. Winnipeg, Brandon, Dauphin, Gimli, we're seeing temperatures around 15 degrees right now, warming up close to 27. The humidity will be around 33, 34, 35 in most of the regions, making it muggy, and we're expecting more showers in the forecast in most of the regions down south. Up north, we're seeing temperatures around 18 degrees in the Par, we're seeing 13 in Thompson, and we're seeing 15 around the Gillam area at this time. Also, we see smoke in the air.
Thank you very much, Abby.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Abby Adiemi. I'm also joined by Sierra Sanders, our show director. You're also keeping an eye on that bit of a rainy commute this morning.
It is a rainy commute out there, especially down here in downtown Winnipeg. It's a little bit slick on the roads there. I don't know about other parts of the city, but for sure down here it is slick because of that rain. I got a call from Tim on the commuter line. Oh, the computer line. Woo! That'd be a lot easier.
Computers are everywhere.
Computers are everywhere. Got a call from Tim with the T on the commuter line about eastbound Logan at Main Street. He mentioned that there was a collision in the left lane, and to keep right to pass because of that collision. If you were in that area and you have an update on that situation, I'd love to hear about it. And I'd love to hear about anything else that is getting in your way or slowing you down this morning, whether you are here in the city or out on the highways. You can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
Holy days, and in a secular country that's supposed to be neutral on religion, having a day off for Christians on Good Friday doesn't sound fair.
What about individual Canadians? What's happening at that level?
That's an interesting question. Although Canada is a secular country, many Canadians are still very religious or spiritual. Unlike in the U.S., where there's lots of updated polling about religion, in Canada we don't have that kind of thing. So I had to go back to a 2019 Angus Reid poll that found that 66% of Canadians believed in God or a higher power, and 61% believed in life after death. 2 years earlier, in 2017, The same pollster found that 54% of Canadians said personal faith and religious belief was important to them in terms of defining their personal identity. 59% said it helped them overcome challenges in life. And meantime, in 2019, Statistics Canada found that about 4 million people for a long time, it also privileged Christianity in governments, laws, and society.
Can you give some examples?
Sure. Consider what happened on July 1, 1967, when Canada turned 100. On that day in Ottawa, 20,000 people gathered on Parliament Hill for a Christian worship service to kick off the official celebration of Canada's centennial. And it was presided over by clergy from the major denominations, United, Anglican, Presbyterian, and Catholic, and included readings from the Bible, Christian hymns, and a confession of sin. It concluded with the entire gathering voicing a litany of dedication to God. Well, such a thing would never happen today. In fact, when Canada marked its 150th anniversary in 2017, religion was absent on the Hill. That day in Ottawa began with a celebration of welcome and diversity, and the opening celebration featured musicians and guest speakers. If there were any clergy present or any prayers or hymns, the official schedule fails to note it. Other examples would include changes to laws against homosexuality, same-sex marriage, and abortion, which were once politically supported by traditional understandings of Christian morality and Scripture. And today it is much easier to get a divorce or access to birth control than in the past, when church teachings prevailed against those things.
So what are some of the current day examples of Canada becoming more secular?
Canada's taking its role as a secular country more seriously these days. That includes in Manitoba, where the government is talking about replacing the Christian-like prayer that opens each session with a moment of silence that recognizes the diversity of the province and the fact that not everyone is religious or Christian. Now, it's not perfect. Christians still have two of their most important holy days, Good Friday and Christmas, recognized as official holidays, although Christmas has become more of a cultural event. But members of other religions still have to ask for time off work to mark their holy days. And in a secular country that's supposed to be neutral on religion, having a day off for Christians on Good Friday doesn't sound fair.
What about individual Canadians? What's happening at that level?
That's an interesting question. Although Canada is a secular country, many Canadians are still very religious or spiritual. Unlike in the U.S., where there's lots of updated polling about religion, in Canada we don't have that kind of thing. So I had to go back to a 2019 Angus Reid poll that found that 66% of Canadians believed in God or a higher power, and 61% believed in life after death. 2 years earlier, in 2017, the same pollster found that 54% of Canadians said personal faith and religious belief was important to them in terms of defining their personal identity. 59% said it helped them overcome challenges in life. And meantime, in 2019, Statistics Canada found that about 4 million Canadians said they practice a religious or spiritual activity weekly. This could be attending a worship service, could be praying, engaging in religious practices such as meditation, communing with nature, or walking a labyrinth. And by the way, the world is still pretty religious too. Collectively, almost 76% of the world's 8 billion people identified with a religion in 2020, with the two largest religions being Christianity and Islam. As for Canada, we won't know where things are at today until another survey is done, but we do know that there's still a lot of Canadians who practice some form of religion or spirituality.
So what does this mean then for religion in Canada as a whole?
Maybe we're heading into what scholar David Seljak calls a post-secular Canada. If, after the 1960s, Canada started becoming more secular when it came to not privileging one religion, the Christian religion, today we are living in a country that doesn't want to ignore religion at all, but rather to unabashedly celebrate it in all its forms. That means all religions, including the minority religions like Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, and others, along with, and importantly, Indigenous spirituality. And that's a good thing. It means people who might have once been reluctant to tell others they were part of beliefs other than Christianity now can feel welcome to practice their religions. And let's not forget that over 100 years ago, Indigenous spirituality was against the law in this country. It was suppressed and oppressed. And it's good to see that recognized and celebrated in so many ways. Now, I know there are some Christians who wrongly interpret this as Canada being anti-Christian, and that's not right at all. It's simply a rebalancing of what had been unbalanced before in favor of Christianity. No longer does the state apparatus privilege Christians' teaching and social moral values, although we still have that pesky Good Friday holiday. And I, for one, am glad for these changes, and I think most Canadians are too. It invites us all, religious and non-religious, to feel accepted and able to work together to figure out how to live in this land with our rich tapestry of religious, spiritual, and non-religious experiences.
Now, John, I know that you can't predict the future, but where do you think this could be heading?
That is hard. If I had to guess, I would say that the traditional way many have practiced religion in the past is waning. And by that I mean defining religiosity as going to church, synagogue, mosque, gurdwara, or temple, or some other place of worship. Instead of that, instead of making a building the focus of the sacred, I think more and more Canadians may be doing what scholar William Clausen James wrote about in the 1960s. And that's when he suggested, instead of one location for the sacred, a building like a church, Canadians in the future would have many sacred locations, like a park, in the mountains, by the lake, or doing things like meditation or meeting to discuss spirituality with friends over a beer. So today it's hard to generalize about a single sacred anchoring point like a place of worship. Instead, there are many locations of the sacred for Canadians, locations that are hard to count, hard to measure, things that are, as Clausen James put it, multiple, fluid, and impossible fix in any permanent or lasting way. So one thing I can say for sure about the future is that, well, people may not be going to religious services as much as they used to. Religion and spirituality in all its forms is not going away.
Wildfires impact our province. Keep up to date with CBC. For the latest information, listen to CBC Radio 1. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba or the CBC News app. For people who have a limited data plan or are running into spotty mobile service on the road, visit cbc.ca/lite. That's cbc.ca/LITE.
Well, still to come on the show, many Manitobans have heard of Centerport, a major economic hub near Winnipeg's airport with rail, road, and air connections to markets worldwide. But did you know there's another port in the works south of Winnipeg? CBC's Bartley Kivas will join us to tell us more about that and why very little has been said about it so far. You're listening to Information Radio. We have time for a bit of music here. Alex Cuba is back with another heartfelt track. This one's called El Dia Más Triste, or The Saddest Day. It's a moving reflection that blends sorrow and sweetness with Alex's signature warmth woven throughout. Take a listen.
El silencio me ha visto desnudar los rincones más tiernos de mi alma. Ignorar la alegría y sentir que de pronto todo me hace falta. Intenté y no he podido desmentir las razones que niegan mi calma. Me viraste la espalda, eso no se lo haría ni al peor de mis enemigos. ¿Será que la vida nos engaña? Confunde, no nos deja entender, jugando las cartas en el alma. Desamor, yeah, yeah, yeah. Siempre habrá una manera de evitar quitar la tristeza en el día más triste. Si mañana quisieras, ojalá que tú entiendas las cosas que hiciste. Yo no he sido egoísta, solo te he dicho aquello que oír necesitas. Se hace duro el camino, porque pesa en mis hombros que nos hemos malentendido. ¿Será que la vida nos engaña? Confunde, no nos deja entender, jugando las cartas en el alma. Es amor, oh, y soy culpable, no lo niego, de que no haya paciencia, tal vez un alto al fuego. Yo no creo que importa quién tenga razón. ¿Será que la vida nos engaña?
That was El Dia Más Triste, The Saddest Day from Alex Cuba. You're listening to Information Radio. We're coming up to 7:50. Most Manitobans have heard of Centreport. It's an industrial park with rail, road, and air connections to the north and west of Winnipeg's airport, connecting businesses and supply chains to markets worldwide. But did you know there are plans for another regional inland port south of Winnipeg? If not, you're not alone. That's because there hasn't been much attention on a project called the Winnipeg Regional Rail Port. CBC's Bartley Kivas is here to tell us why. Good morning, Bart.
Good morning.
So what is this Winnipeg Regional Rail Port?
Well, this is a project spearheaded by John Q. Public, and that's a company owned by 12 rural municipalities in Manitoba. And John Q. Public assembled land in the arm of Reshot, south of the city, west of Highway 75, for a rail port. Now, according to documents provided to the province, John Q is trying to land Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railway, also known as BNSF, as an anchor tenant. You might know their yard in River Heights. And John Q's CEO, Colleen Sklar, says she can't talk about the plans in Reshot, but says there's a major announcement coming soon.
So why hasn't the public heard much about this project?
Okay, that's the real reason I'm here today. In the August of 2023, 1 week before the start of the provincial election campaign, Manitoba's government at the time, it was the former PC government under Heather Stephenson, they provided John Q with $18 million to buy land and conduct studies for this rail port. Now, there was no announcement about this, no press release, no public disclosure. My colleague Joanne Levasseur only learned about this in April of this year. So we started asking the NDP questions about the grant the PC government issued 1 week before an election campaign that they ended up losing to the NDP.
What did you find out?
Well, in an interview late last week, NDP Finance Minister Adrian Sala said the magnitude of the grant and the lack of public disclosure has him now asking questions too.
We're really concerned about what we're seeing here, which is that $18 million was sent out as a grant moments before the last election was called, and there was no announcement of any kind made. We need transparency when it comes to decision making. Manitobans deserve to know how that $18 million was spent, and we're going to get some answers.
So Sala compared this PC government grant to the effort by some PC cabinet ministers to try to approve the Silica sand mining project after the PCs lost the election, but before the NDP took power. Now, that one ended up being investigated by Manitoba's Ethics Commissioner, and in the case of the $18 million grant a week before the election campaign, Sala says several government departments are now reviewing it.
So what do the PCs have to say about this?
Well, in a statement, Lac du Bonnet MLA Wayne Owasco, the former interim PC leader, said the NDP are on a fishing expedition. The NDP have already asked the provincial auditor to examine another John Q project, and that was a daycare construction program managed with the help of a company called Boom Done Next. That's co-owned by a person named Marnie Larkin, who directed the PC's 2023 election campaign. Now, Owasco welcomed any further scrutiny, and meanwhile, Sala says he has other concerns about infrastructure costs the province may have to bear to make this Reshot project happen.
In order to proceed with this rail park, there's potential need for a new ring dike. There's a new need for an overpass. These are things that can be in the range of hundreds of millions of dollars. So again, as we look at the decision that was made here, we have to understand what the implications are. And so our team across government is making sure we're asking those questions.
What does John Q. Public say then about Sala's concerns?
Well, we asked Colleen Sklar, the CEO, to comment, but we didn't hear back. And the board chair, Brad Erb, wasn't available to comment.
What about Centerport? What are they saying about the plans for this other regional rail port?
Well, Centerport's chair and CEO both declined to comment, and the Reeve of Rosser, where a Centerport rail park is getting built, says it's understandable other projects want to take advantage of Manitoba's geographic location.
What happens next?
Well, there is that announcement coming from John Q. Public that Colleen Sklar said is coming, and so we'll have to wait and see there. But Sala's office says there is a provision in the funding agreement for the province to reclaim the land or have it transferred to a third party if the railport doesn't proceed. Now, one other thing, we asked Sala, okay, so you've been in government for 2 years. Why are you reviewing this right now? And it's not entirely clear why now.
Thank you, Bartley.
You are more than welcome.
More to come on this story. Bartley Kivas is a reporter with CBC Manitoba. You can read his story on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
On This is Manitoba, we celebrate who we are, and we lean into the challenges here that can make this place even better. I'm Marcy Marcusa, host of This is Manitoba. On the podcast, we tackle one topic in a new episode every Friday. It's always about us, the news, and the people here. Get into some local listening. Find and follow This is Manitoba wherever you get your podcasts.
Personally, from CBC Podcasts, allows you to get lost in someone else's life. From a mysterious childhood spent on the run to a courageous escape from domestic violence, each season of Personally invites you to explore the human experience in all its complexity, one story or season at a time. This is what it sounds like to be human. Find Personally on the CBC Listen app and everywhere you get your podcasts.
You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in for Marcy Marcusa. We are looking at widespread smoke across the province. Air quality warnings in effect for much of the province as well. We will have more details on that from Abby Adiemi with your weather in your next hour. But just a quick look at what we're looking at for the forecast. In Winnipeg today, mixed sun and cloud. We're seeing some rain right now, actually, though. 60% chance of showers continuing, or we could see thunderstorms as well. Looking at a high of 25. The humidex could make things feel like 30. Currently 17 degrees here in Winnipeg at the Forks. Sierra Sanders, show director, joins me now for a quick look at your traffic. Hello.
Good morning, Chloe. Yeah, I just wanted to remind folks that I heard from Tim with a T a little while ago about a collision at eastbound Logan at Main Street. So that collision was in the left lane, so you wanted to keep right to pass there. Haven't heard any updates on that situation. So if you are driving in that area, I would love to hear about an update, whether that collision is still there, whether it has been cleared. That would be great. And I would love to hear about anything else that is coming up on your commute, whether you are here in the city or out on the highways. Would love to hear about it. You can give me a call on the CBC Commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
Sierra, in the next hour, we're going to hear from some Flint Flon high school students who finally got their grad dinners and dances. It was a few weeks late, but they still happened, which is some good news. What sort of grad memories do you have? Because that's definitely going to be a unique one for these graduates.
100%. I got very lucky. I like to think of myself as lucky. I graduated in 2018. So 2 years before the COVID pandemic kind of brought things to a halt. And I kind of have to connect with my younger sister who was graduating high school in 2020 and unfortunately had to do the whole spaced out graduation where you could only come at a certain time and you were in the gym and you were spaced out from that 10 other people that were allowed to come at that time. And the high school I went to was a very big high school. So, when I graduated in high school, I think a fond memory for mine was graduating with 500 other people.
Wow.
Yeah, we had a very big graduating class.
I'm a small town girl, so there was about 70 of us.
Whoa.
So that's different. And I know that we heard in our news headlines, one of the teachers from the high school in Flint Flon mentioned that this class also had to miss their 8th grade graduation for COVID. So to then have to miss this one would have been probably very disappointing. We also have to remember there's still about 7,000 evacuees in hotel rooms, 1,200 in shelters. I'm just looking at some details from one of our web pages here. So there's still a lot of people who are not in their communities, who might be students who might still have to miss their grads. So happy for the students of Flint Flon, though. We're going to hear from them later.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you, Sierra.
Thank you.
You're listening to Information Radio. Still to come on the show, as we mentioned, we're going to hear from some of those graduates as well. When we first met Tamara Fontaine, she was a teenage girl juggling parenthood and high school. Today, both she and her son are thriving, and she's a contestant in Miss Indigenous Canada 2025. We're going to catch up with Tamara Fontaine coming up here on Information Radio. That conversation is coming up next. Oh, and we have to do headlines. Sorry, see, I'm new to this. We're going to go to headlines with Lauren Donnelly.
Good morning. That summer smoke, Chloe, seems to be here to stay. That's according to a lead forecaster with Environment and Climate Change Canada. Brad Vrolik says this thick smoke will continue until the Whiteshell and Central Prairie region gets significant rain or snow. We'll have more on that after World Report.
Today on Q with Tom Power.
When the actor and comedian Rhys Darby noticed that conversations around AI were becoming increasingly normalized in Hollywood, he decided it was time to look at AI through stand-up comedy.
It's fantastic. It could be the last time you see me.
Rhys will be here to tell you about his new stand-up show, The Legend Returns. That's coming up on Q, followed by Commotion with Elamine Abdel Mahmoud on CBC Radio 1, the CBC Listen app, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Pia Chattopadhyay. Donald Trump has threatened Canada any number of ways. Now journalist Stephen Marsh is asking the question, does Canada really have what it takes to go it alone without the U.S.? That's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Data obtained by CBC News is raising questions about the death rate of federal inmates. The Correctional Service acknowledges it never intended to make the figures public, and it released unredacted data to CBC by accident. Thomas Daigle has this exclusive story.
He got into a lot of trouble with the law.
Ashley Fontaine's brother spent most of his life in custody. After a string of violent crimes and mental health struggles, 31-year-old Kendall Lee Campo told his sister he wanted to change his ways.
A lot of those places that he did go to were supposed to stabilize his behaviors.
Campo overdosed on methadone less than 2 years before his expected release. He was among at least 136 federal inmates since 2019 whose deaths were deemed non-natural. What's more, data obtained by CBC News shows Correctional Service Canada has failed to curb such deaths, with the rate remaining stable year after year. Criminal defense lawyer Alison Craig says the findings highlight an urgent need for better support in those crucial final months.
There need to be concrete programs for each and every offender that helps them plan before they get out.
And you're lacking that support.
Richard Miller served time in federal custody himself and says it can prove a dangerous cycle.
Guys are in prison and they're doing time. They do not have the resources that's needed for them to reintegrate.
The Federal Correctional Service declined our interview request, but said every death in custody is investigated and that staff are committed to learning from each incident. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Toronto.
Police in New York State say they have found the body of a missing 9-year-old girl from Canada. Melina Fratellin's father reported her missing on Saturday. He said it was possible she was abducted from the vacation town of Lake George in the Adirondacks. Police found the girl's body about 50 kilometers away from there, close to the New York-Vermont border. They say there's nothing to suggest she was abducted, and officers have identified inconsistencies in the father's timeline of events. He is currently in police custody. That is according to Vine, a system that allows victims of crime to obtain information about U.S. criminal cases. A man who has lived in Canada since he was a baby is accused of running one of Italy's most powerful mafias. But it's not clear if the Canadian government can deport him. Most of the evidence against him is based on foreign eavesdropping. As Evan Dyer reports, the Federal Court of Appeals will today weigh in on the case.
We're about to show you a police surveillance operation against purported mobsters.
A CBC report on the surveillance of two Italians who landed at Toronto's Pearson Airport in 2018. Today, that surveillance is at the center of a deportation appeal by purported mob boss Vincenzo Jimmy De Maria. The governments of both Canada and Italy say De Maria is a senior figure in Italy's biggest mafia, the 'Ndrangheta. Italian police were recording the two visitors who met with De Maria through spyware on one of their phones with the help of Canadian police. But a Crown attorney had already told Canadian police not to join the surveillance operation because there were no grounds to justify a wiretap in Canada. De Maria's lawyer, Jessica Zita, says he put that in writing in a letter she received through disclosure.
It very clearly states if they were to make these recordings on Canadian soil, it would be a breach of our Constitution.
Police made the recordings anyway, and patchy transcripts are now evidence in the government's application to have the 71-year-old De Maria deported back to the country he left as an infant. Zita says the recordings don't make the case against her client, but also warns of the precedent if Canadian officials are able to do an end run around the Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
They can find ways through other countries with lower standards for evidentiary rules, bring that evidence back and rely on it without any sort of testing whatsoever. That's as good as having no evidence at all.
The governments of Canada and Italy both declined to comment directly on the case. The hearing begins today with testimony from Italian police and is expected to continue all week. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
A prominent human rights activist in Kenya has been charged for his alleged role in anti-government protests in June. Boniface Mwangi was arrested on Saturday. Police say they recovered 3 unused tear gas canisters and a single round of blank ammunition from his office. He has now been charged with unlawful possession of ammunition. Mwangi is accused of facilitating terrorist acts last month. Hundreds of Kenyans took to the streets to protest the death of a political blogger who was in police custody. 19 people were killed in clashes between police and demonstrators. Trade and tariffs will be in focus this week for Canada's premiers gathering in Ontario. Their 3-day meeting starts today. This is the day Canada was supposed to land a new trade deal with the U.S. That deadline has moved to August 1st. As Olivia Stefanovich reports, premiers are cautiously optimistic an agreement is within reach.
Oh, well, we're looking forward to hearing an update on the negotiations.
New Brunswick Premier Susan Holt preparing to meet with her provincial counterparts at their annual summer gathering amid historic tensions between Canada and the U.S.
The volatility, the uncertainty, the level of some of the tariffs, we'd like as much of that gone as possible.
The premiers are gathering in Ontario's cottage country this week. Tomorrow, they will be joined by the Prime Minister, who's hinted that Canada may have to accept some tariffs from the U.S. in exchange for a new trade deal by August 1st. But even some provincial leaders aren't sure that latest deadline is achievable.
Well, I don't know by August 1st, and I'm not going to try to predict, what the next curveball might be or the next statement that comes out of the White House might be. I would expect there will be a few.
Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe bracing for the unexpected. And if that means tariffs are here to stay, Moe says he hopes they're small enough so they don't require retaliation.
I think the Prime Minister is just recognizing the reality of the situation, and you know what, we're going to support him in trying to negotiate the best free trade enhancements to the USMCA that we can.
But before premiers sit down to go over their strategy, they will meet with Indigenous leaders first to discuss everything from trade tensions to how they can work together to build projects of national interest. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Huntsville, Ontario.
People in Slave Lake, Alberta are being told to get ready to evacuate. A wildfire is burning northeast of the town. People are being told to fill up their vehicles, gather important documents and medication. They don't have to leave home yet, but they should be prepared to be away for at least 3 days. People in Slave Lake have faced devastating wildfire before. A third of the town burned down back in 2011. The wildfire threatening Musgrave Harbour, Newfoundland, is now just 2 kilometers from the town site, and it's still burning out of control. Musgrave Harbour is home to about 900 people. They've been ordered to evacuate the community. Mackay Mullen is one of the people who left in a hurry.
It was on the breakwater. You could see the clouds towering over the harbour, and it was outrageous.
The Red Cross has set up a reception centre in Gander. The government is asking everyone to register, even if they're planning to stay with friends or family. Newfoundland and Labrador is experiencing hotter days, less rain this summer. Rivers are low, water temperatures are warm, and it is affecting the local salmon population. CBC's Layla Baudouin has more from Corner Brook.
Well, they're going to die, right?
Angler Wayne Fitzpatrick has hung up his rod. He says some rivers have hit 25 degrees Celsius. The rivers are also drying up, making it easy for poachers to destroy salmon stocks.
The rivers are getting low and warm earlier and earlier every year.
Several of the province's 200 or so rivers are closed or under special fisheries and oceans orders, restricting fishing from an hour before sunrise until 10 a.m. DFO scientist Nicholas Kelly has been studying Atlantic salmon for decades. Kelly says 13 of 19 salmon species studied were in the critical zone. He points to climate change-induced heating of the water.
Temperatures in the high 20s are certainly approaching lethal or within lethal limits of salmon.
Fitzpatrick's praying for rain and colder temperatures so he can return to the river. Layla Baudouin, CBC News, Corner Brook.
Unionized workers at Canada Post begin voting today on the Crown Corporation's latest contract offer, but the Canadian Union of Postal Workers is urging their members to reject the proposal. Wages have been a sticking point, and Canada Post is at an impasse with the union representing roughly 55,000 mail workers. Contract talks have been ongoing for more than a year and a half. That is World Report for this hour. News anytime, cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in this morning for Marcy Marcusa. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. 89.3 FM, 990 AM, YouTube, or anywhere on your CBC Listen app. Coming up on the show, we'll hear from a Flint Flon high school student who finally got her grad dinner and dance after wildfire evacuations had her out of her school and community. She says she didn't think this day would come. That's coming up on the show, but as well, when Tamara Fontaine first appeared on CBC Manitoba, she was a teenage girl juggling parenthood and high school. Today, both she and her son are thriving, and she's a contestant in Miss Indigenous Canada 2025. We'll catch up with Tamara Fontaine coming up on Information Radio. But first, it's time for your news headlines with Lauren Donnelly.
Good morning. It's smoky out there, and that's forcing summer event organizers to rethink their plans and policies. Some, like Bike Winnipeg and Sail Manitoba, have cancelled events, while others, like Fringe Festival and the Stampede in Morris, have gone ahead. We'll have more on that. And the province's NDP government says it's investigating a, quote, mysterious grant made by the former PC government. Finance Minister Adrian Salas says $18 million were given to a company called John Q. Public just before the 2023 election campaign to develop a rail port south of Winnipeg. Salas says it's concerning. We'll hear the response from opposition PCs in your next local news at 8:30.
Thank you very much, Lauren.
You're welcome.
That is CBC's Lauren Donnelly. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in for Marcy Marcusa. Hello to the team on the show this morning. Abby Adiemi here, of course, with a look at your weather forecast.
Good morning once again. Air quality warning still in effect for much of the province this morning due to that smoke from fires in a lot of regions. And this is impacting regions in the south. If you're looking down there, you can see that rain. If you're seeing the map on YouTube, the rain is just in the Steinbach corner, and a lot of smoke in that area also impacting Victoria Beach and Port Perry and Winnipeg, also tracking it all the way up north. Burns River, the Par, Thompson, even Gillam and Lynn Lake, we're seeing smoke in that part of the province this morning. And that is impacting air quality and also reducing visibility. We're talking about air quality indexes around 8 and plus 10 this morning. So things can really change quickly from place to place and hour to hour. So you need to take care if you're spending time outside. Conditions are very risky for people with health issues. Right now, Winnipeg, 17 outside. We're seeing light rain and smoky skies. The smoke level still remains high for the city. Expect a mix of sun and clouds sometime during the lunch break, and then the showers would return in the afternoon. Winds will be coming from the southeast. We'll see highs around 25, and that's what most of the regions will warm up to this today. But the humidity in most of the regions, even tracking it all the way up north, we should be seeing the humidity around 30 degrees for most parts of the province today. So you need to take care. It's going to be muggy. Right now, Winnipeg 17, and we are warming up close to 27 today.
All right. Thank you very much, Abby.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Abby Adiemi. Sierra Sanders joins us now, show director, also keeping an eye on your commute.
Good morning. It's been a slick commute out there with rain sounding like it's falling in many parts of the city, especially here in the downtown, as we have been seeing since the beginning of the show. So be careful out there with those slick conditions. If there's anything slowing you down out there, I'd love to hear about it. We still have a little bit of time left in the show. You can give me a call on the CBC Commuter line, whether you are here in the city or out on the highways. That number is 204-788-3093.
Flint Flon High School students missed their grade 8 graduation because of the pandemic. And this year, they nearly missed their grade 12 grad because of wildfires. The city of Flint Flon was evacuated in late May and didn't get the okay to return until late June. Rachel Wright is a teacher at Hapnot Collegiate Institute. She shared how the delayed event was planned with CBC's Rosanna Hempel.
Yeah, so we start in mid-September. We start meeting with the grads. We do fundraising throughout the whole year. And as we get closer after spring break, we start planning the big event here at the Whitney Forum. So that means choosing songs, choosing guest speakers, people who are going to give toasts, and just planning the decorations that you'll see here tonight.
And so when does the graduation usually take place?
So usually it is the last Thursday in the school year in June. So this year I do believe that was June 27th. So we're just over a month, just under a month behind.
So was there a point when you thought that you wouldn't be able to have this day?
I did. I think about midway through our evacuation. And then as things got a little better, I knew I wanted to give this group especially. I don't know if you guys know, but this is the same group that missed their grade 8 ceremonies because of the pandemic. So in grade 8, they just have a big farewell dance from entering high school. They get to do a big celebration, and this group missed out on that. So when it came to a chance of losing it again, I knew we wanted to give them something. So we had lots of different plans for where it could be and what it would look like, and then it settled into pretty much a normal grad, just a little bit later.
And so just tell me what the last month was like. When did you realize, okay, we can go ahead with this day?
I think once there was a date set for a return. So we kind of were given a little notice that we would be returning in stages. So once the stages started happening, I knew we would be back in here. And then when we were told a date for all of the community to return, we started planning. So I gave the grads 2 choices of weekends that they wanted to do it on. We voted on it, and they chose this weekend, I think, thinking everything would be back to a little more normal. So the Whitney Forum was used during the return process to help out the community, and so we had to wait till it was available. Same with our community hall, which we utilize for the dinner and the safe grad ceremony afterwards.
And so what are some of those extra special things that you're doing for these grads just after the whole evacuation?
I tried to keep it our traditions. We have really great grad traditions here in Hapnot. So it's a bit of a week of celebrations. It kicks off with our car parade, which happened last Tuesday. And that's really fun, where the kids get to go around soaking the community and getting soaked themselves. So the fire hall was really awesome with that. And the pictures are usually in the reminder when they do our graduation special, which is our newspaper here. Then we usually go, the only tradition we didn't get to do is they walk through the halls of their elementary schools in their caps and gowns and get to see them off. So unfortunately, we couldn't do that one with no schools being back in by the time we were in. We are looking to plan maybe something for the fall for them. And then we have the big day here at the Whitney Forum. So it'll be about a 2-hour-long ceremony. We have very generous donations for bursaries and awards that are handed out here tonight. We have guest speakers that the grads nominate. We have several grads give toasts to people in their lives that have helped them get to here. And then we have a very big tradition of walking down Main Street where we get to see all their dresses and suits. It's one of my favorite traditions. The community lines Main Street and sees them off. And then we come back in here for a little dance celebration before they head to their Safe Grads celebrations at the community hall.
That was Rachel Wright, a teacher at Hapnot Collegiate Institute. Rosanna also spoke with Scarlett Gunn, a Hapnot student who is gearing up to walk across the stage and get her diploma.
We had to flee Flint Flon in the giant convoy that was like bumper to bumper. Just like it took 3 hours to get to a place that usually takes 1 hour. And we went to Winnipeg to stay with my stepdad's sister, and we had to like shelter in her basement for like a month. And my mom, she did not stop working on my grad dress. Like even on the road, she would just like continue adding all the little things. And we even had to like scour so many like Walmarts and craft stores just to get like one bottle of glitter paint. And we would have to go around to thrift stores trying to find shoes. And yeah, like it was really stressful too because we had like a cat and a dog, and like we were all crammed into a truck. And then we had to give the truck back, and we had to rent a car, but then we had to give that back, and we had to go on one of the buses, which was also kind of a nightmare.
A bus back to Flint Flon?
Yeah, because when the Red Cross was like boarding everyone onto the bus, they put as many babies and toddlers as they could onto one bus. Like it was mayhem, and even animals had to go into the luggage compartment. Yeah, and it was a lot.
What does it mean to finally to have this day celebrated?
I never thought I'd actually get to walk this stage because I was so low in my grade, but then I started, climbing higher and aiming higher, and look where I am now.
And can I ask you what's next?
I hopefully want to go into film school because it's also the same school my mom went to for her theater degree. Oh. Yeah, so hopefully I'll be able to get up there with like Steven Spielberg and stuff.
Scarlett Gunn is a Hapnot Collegiate Institute graduate. We also heard from Rachel Wright, a teacher at Hapnot. They were both speaking with the CBC's Rosanna Hempel. Coming up next on Information Radio. Back in 2016, Tamara Fontaine was a teenage mom to an infant son, juggling both single parenthood and high school homework. She shared her story with CBC about how she was determined to make that work. And today, it's safe to say that she succeeded. She finished high school, she's in university, her son is thriving, and this weekend she'll be competing in the Miss Indigenous Canada 2025 pageant. Tamara Fontaine joined me last week in the studio for a conversation just ahead of the pageant.
Hi.
And Noah's here in the studio too. Noah, do you want to say hi?
Hi.
Woohoo! Okay. So, Tamara, if someone told you 10 years ago today that you would be a Miss Indigenous Canada contestant.
Oh my gosh.
What do you think you would have thought?
I honestly probably would not believe them. Like, I would be like, really? Are you serious? I'd probably cry. And it still is very emotional.
How did you get to this place? How did you make it all work?
Oh my gosh. Sometimes I look back, I was like, I always question myself that too. I'm like, how did I get here? And I'm like, I believe I got here from like being determined because I've always wanted to compete in like a pageant, but I didn't, I had a hard time with like my education. But anyways, like education brought me to where I'm at today, and being in school and like all the programs that my school like offered. Like I was part of this program called Indigenous Empowerment Circle. It's a Indigenous like leadership program. So they helped me gain like a lot of like communication skills, my confidence. And and then too, they were my reference as well for Miss Indigenous Canada. So, because the Miss Indigenous Canada is like about like cultural and leadership. So their like pageant is like so different from the beauty pageants. Yeah.
We're going to get more into the pageant itself shortly here.
Okay.
But I was reading the article that you wrote for CBC
Oh.
about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it goes through all of the hurdles that you
Mhm.
kind of had to overcome to get to, I mean, that point it was about graduating high school.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And now you're here. What would you say were the biggest challenges through those years?
Well, yeah, the biggest challenge was raising my son and going to school at the same time. That was the biggest challenge, and trying to meet deadlines for school and like getting all my assignments in and taking care of my baby when I come home from school. But also he came with me, so he would come with me to school, even on the worst weather days. He would be right there beside me, because at Elmwood High School, that's where I graduated from, and they actually had an infant lab. Unfortunately, it's no longer there, but they did definitely helped a lot of us young mothers to like finish school and take care of a baby while we're in class. So
Noah,
I think
you went to high school early.
Me?
Yeah.
You were in a high school as a baby.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Cool stuff. So let's talk about the pageant now. So what made you think that you'd like to apply for something like this?
Oh wow, that's I love that question, and I'm like all over the place with it. I've always wanted to be in pageant, like I've always wanted to, but I couldn't, right? Because like I had my son, right, and then it was like but it was always one of my goals, like aspirations, and not only that, like I looked up to what's her name, Ashley Cullingville. She's a Indigenous pageant queen. She won Miss Universe Canada, I think. Last year. If not, don't quote me on that. But yeah, like she's always been like my aspiration, and I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to like do pageantry one day. And then this came across Miss Indigenous Canada, and I've always got asked, or people were asking me like, why don't you apply, or why don't you? And I was like, no, I don't want to. Like, I'm not ready for that yet, or like I don't think, like, I was doubting myself, but then I realized like, no, I don't think you should ever doubt yourself like that. Just you're gonna surprise yourself. Just apply and you'll never know. And I did it, and I still can't believe it. Sometimes I'm just like, I'm gonna be leaving next week on Tuesday to go there, and it's very, oh my gosh, I'm so thrilled. I can't even describe. But yeah, Miss Indigenous Canada is like, I know it's gonna be a really big step for me and Noah.
Obviously, you had this community of people who saw you doing this, who kind of had that confidence that they shared with you in that. What did it feel like to be accepted? What was that moment like?
Oh, that was like the most amazing feeling in the world. Like I couldn't even describe, like, oh my gosh, I was like crying. I got it like at like nighttime too. Like I got the email like 10 or 12 p.m. at night, somewhere really late, and all I seen was Miss Indigenous Canada, congratulations. That's all I saw was like the subject, and then I just opened it, and I read it, and it was amazing.
Noah, what do you do when mom's happy crying before bed?
I just hug mom.
Hug mom.
Yeah, he just gives me a big hug.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the pageant. A big part of it is culture. Right? And you've said it's important for you to celebrate your culture and honor your ancestors with this pageant. What does that look like?
Like growing up, I've never, like as a young child, like my son's age, I never really got exposure to my culture until I started going to school. And then the schools had like, university had like Aboriginal Access Program, or like the Inner City of Social Work program. They integrated like, cultural Indigenous perspective, and I dance jingle dress dancing, so that's like it's a healing dress, right? So because I know our people are struggling, right? And I really want to just dance for them, and that's what I'll be doing at the cultural presentation. That's at the end of the show, and I will be dancing for my loved ones that passed on.
What do you think it's going to be like for Noah to watch you on stage dancing?
I know he's going to be rooting for me.
Yeah.
And I just can't wait for him to see me on that stage. And he's always like, he's always so happy for me when I'm on the stage or doing anything.
What do you hope he learns from an experience like this?
I hope he learns that our dreams can come true. You know?
Yeah.
Your dreams can come true, my love. And I just want you to know that. And that's why you're here with me. I want you to see this. And and I really, really hope that you follow your dreams on whatever you choose to, who you want to be.
I want to be arm wrestler.
Follow your dreams, Noah. Follow your dreams.
Love that.
So finally, Tamara, in the piece that you wrote for us, you really wanted to send a message to other young girls out there, other teenage moms who might be struggling and may not see themselves in a pageant or in a position like you're in. If someone is listening to this or reading your piece, what would you like to tell them?
My message for young Indigenous girls and women and also mothers, I just want to say that your past does not define your future. Because that's what I felt as well. Like I felt like I wasn't enough, or like I was struggling so much raising my son, and I felt like I was like I doubted myself so much when I was younger. But however, I used my resources to help me achieve to where I am today. And I've been there, young and scared and unsure. And now I'm standing here to show that healing and growth is possible. You are enough, even when the world tells you otherwise. Lean into your community and your culture and your voice because you matter.
Tamara, thank you so much for joining us today ahead of the pageant.
Thank you so much for having me and my son here.
And
like,
thank
it
you,
means
Noah.
Welcome.
Good work. Good work. Tamara Fontaine is a member of Saugeen First Nation and a contestant in the Miss Indigenous Canada 2025 pageant. She and her son Noah joined us in the studio last week. The pageant takes place next weekend in Brantford, Ontario. And for more on Tamara's story, in her own words, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Manitoba. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in for Marcy Marcusa. Marcy will be back tomorrow. So thanks for tuning in with both me and Faith Fundal last week. It's been a blast. Thank you to our team on the show, Issa Kixon, Chidi Akuma, our associate producers, Donna Carrero, a producer, Lauren Donnelly, Alana Cole, Darren Bernhardt, and of course, Abby Adiemi, Brad Lilly, Sierra Sanders, and Ezeka Abdelatif. I'm Chloe Friesen. Your CBC News is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning, I'm Lauren Donnelly in Winnipeg. At 8:30, it's 17 degrees with light rain at the airport. An air quality warning is in effect. A mix of sun and cloud today, a 60% chance of showers or thunderstorms with a high of 25 degrees. Well, poor air quality and smoky skies aren't clearing anytime soon. That's according to a lead forecaster with Environment and Climate Change Canada. Brad Vrolik says this thick smoke will continue until the Whiteshell and Central Prairie region gets significant rain or snow. He says people should consider wearing an N95 mask if they are spending time outdoors.
It's kind of an unfortunate summer so far for Winnipeg, to be honest, and for many people. And I mean, I say that with full recognition that obviously it's far worse for people who have had to leave their homes because of the fires.
Froelich says in the past decade, there's been a clear trend of forest fires becoming a staple of Western Canada's summer climate. That smoke is leading to changes at Sail Manitoba as they look at ways to deal with the possibility of future event cancellations. The Sail West Regional Championships in Gimli were cancelled yesterday because it was unsafe for competitors and volunteers to be outdoors. Sail Manitoba President Eric Turner says the organization will develop guidelines about when to cancel events because of air quality.
Rule number one in sailing is safety. This is a safety issue, not of the kind we've had before, but it's still a safety issue. So when we discussed it and with the medical people, they said, you know, we think we should cancel. And I said two words, do it.
Turner says he had no qualms about canceling yesterday's event and that as far as he knows, it was the first time the competition had to be cancelled because of smoke. Manitoba's NDP government says it's reviewing an $18 million grant made by the former PC government just 1 week before the start of the 2023 provincial election campaign. The PC government gave the funds to a company called John Q. Public to develop a rail port south of Winnipeg in Richat. There was no disclosure about that grant. Manitoba Finance Minister Adrian Sala called this mysterious and says several government departments are looking into it.
We're really concerned about what we're seeing here, which is that $18 million was sent out as a grant moments before the last election was called, and there was no announcement of any kind made.
Sala also says he's concerned about infrastructure the province might have to build to make this port happen. The opposition PCs say the NDP is going on a fishing expedition. The CEO of John Q. Public did not respond to a request to comment on Sala's statements. High-level talks in support of Ukraine are being held today. The Ukraine Defense Contact Group, which includes Canada, will meet virtually. As Anna Cunningham reports, Moscow launched a new round of attacks on Ukraine overnight.
Ukraine's Air Force says some 450 drones and missiles were launched. Residents spending another restless night in underground shelters. Katerina took shelter in a metro station that was also hit. There was lots of smoke and dust, she says. We've all gotten used to it, she adds. Kyiv's allies, including Canada, will hold a virtual meeting of the Ukraine Defence Contact Group later, chaired by the British and German defence ministers. It's expected they will call for a 50-day drive to arm Ukraine, designed to force the Russian President Vladimir Putin back to the negotiating table. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says he has sent Moscow a proposal to hold peace talks this week. It's unclear if Russia has accepted. Anna Cunningham, CBC News, London.
The graduating class of Flint Flon's high school got their diplomas on Saturday. Only a few weeks ago, a celebration with everyone wasn't guaranteed, and neither was the city's future. From May to June, wildfires forced the community's 5,000 people to leave. Flint Flon's 54 grade 12 students were mostly scattered across the prairies. On grad night over the weekend, they were thrilled to be back home celebrating together. Here's Emma White and Aiden Antonu on what it means to them.
Ukraine's
It feels great to be together again and all know that we're here together, our community's safe, all of our families are safe.
It means just a lot to have it and something normal again after we all left the town.
The ceremony at Hapnock Collegiate recognized students' accomplishments and also the dedication of firefighters who protected homes. And that is your CBC News from Winnipeg.
So many resilient students.
Yes,
Yeah.
Chloe.
Many of them
imagine.
actually still out of their communities. So, pardon me. Lovely story, and I'm sure we'll hear lots more from students who are celebrating in their own ways as they can, who are graduating this year. You're listening to Information Radio. We are coming to the end of the program. Abby Adiemi, it's a bit rainy out there, but you're looking at our forecast.
Yeah, the rain is not really going to be helping much as it concerns the smoke outside. We still have the warnings in place for much of the province this morning, but mostly impacting the Red River Valley region, the Interlake region. We're talking about Gimli and surrounding area, and we're looking at the southeastern parts of the province. Steinbach, Port La Prairie, we're seeing smoke in that area also, and then up north, we're seeing smoke impacting from Flint Flon all the way down to Gillam and Churchill, just a bit of smoke in that region. But this morning, we're seeing temperatures between 17 and 19 in the south, and up north, we're seeing 15 degrees. But smoke and rain is a main story today. It's going to be warm, it's going to be humid, and we're going to see highs close to 27 degrees in most of the regions.
Thank you very much, Abby.
Thank you.
And thank you to Sierra Sanders, who was manning that CBC commuter line. Not too much going on out there, so your morning commute should go rather smoothly other than a bit of rain on the roads there. I'm Chloe Friesen filling in for Marcy Marcusa. Marcy will be back in the host seat tomorrow morning. It was a pleasure spending the morning with you today. Coming up next is The Current.